All right, welcome back to part 2 of relational triangles. If you remember from what we talked about before, we talked about how relational triangles are the emotional building blocks of relationships. It's not 2 people, it's 3. We talked about how anxiety can be passed from person to person like a hot potato. We also talked about our roles in the triangles. We can introduce the anxiety, we can generate the anxiety, we can amplify it, or we can dampen it. And now we're going to be talking about our position in the triangle as well as the triangle itself, because the triangle itself, apart from the individuals, has specific characteristics that might be preventing change from happening or encouraging change to happen in that relational triangle. So we'll be looking at these things this evening. So the position in your particular triangle, as well as the stability or instability of the triangle, and then finally, how to detriangulate ourselves, how to be smart and wise, also caring about how much we get involved in other people's business. So we've done this, boom, strike through. Now we're moving on to the position. So I want you to think of position as you're either an insider or you're an outsider. Insider or outsider. If it's your issue to deal with, you are an insider. If it's other people's issue to deal with, you want to be an outsider because it's not your issue. And as soon as you get involved and you take on some of the responsibility of trying to help them resolve some of that conflict, you take on more of some of the stress of that relationship, right? So you want to be an outsider. You don't want to be an insider. When things are good between 2 people, things are smooth, we're able to work things out, but there can be this pendulating push and pull. We're doing fine now, but now we need some help. We're doing okay now, but now we need some help. Earlier we talked about how sometimes pastors are roped into other people's challenges, but people only call the pastor when they need help, right? The pastor doesn't live at home with them. So even then it's like this push-pull, like, come help me. Okay, now you solved the problem. Now we're good. Now I need help again. So there's this pendulation that happens. And you might find yourself spending a lot of energy trying to figure out, do they need my help now or tomorrow? Or find yourself trying to expect, okay, it's been a week. I'm expecting so-and-so to call me with an issue. You start to get used to this pattern of when they need your help. So you want to be the outsider. You don't want to be the insider. Because as soon as you get involved, you become an insider and you partake in some of their stress. So you actually want to be the odd person out. You want to be the third wheel. I know it's a little bit uncomfortable if it's you and 2 other people, and those 2 people are close, and it's uncomfortable to be around other people whisper fighting, I'll call it. Not right now. We're not going to talk about it right now. We'll deal with it later. Okay, everyone knows that we're not talking about it now, and then it's icy quiet, and then they can be short and curt with each other. But remember, okay, that's their issue, not mine. I do not need to get involved because it's not my problem. So stay on the outside of their business. Even when they invite you in, you can say, no, I'm good. I'm good, and we'll talk about how to do that in a respectful and caring manner, because you do not want to kick them to the curb. So we're talking about generator, amplifier, and dampener. We talked about this last time before the break. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, does a triangle have all 3 of these always represented? Does a triangle always have an amplifier, a generator, and a dampener? No, good. You do not need all of those 3 in the triangle. Sometimes all 3 are present. Sometimes only one type is present. And it can change depending on what's going on. So these are just different roles. That doesn't mean, okay, I'm the generator, so someone else has to amplify it. No. Everyone gets to decide how they roll through this. And then the difference between the insider and the outsider is how close you are to the conflict and how much ownership you're taking over the frustration, unresolved tension. Okay, to be honest, this next section is the whole reason why I'm here today. I love this next section about triangles because triangles themselves have specific characteristics. Triangles themselves have power. We're going to be talking about that. And the power I'm talking about is stability or instability. So triangles that are stable want to stay the same. They resist change. Triangles that are stable do not want to change. Triangles that are unstable want to change. So stable triangles want to stay the same. Unstable triangles want to change. So help me out here. What do stable triangles want to do? Stay the same. What do unstable triangles want to do? Awesome, good. So stability or instability has nothing to do with dysfunction, totally separate. You can have a very dysfunctional triangle that is stable. So a lot of dysfunction in the triangle, but the triangle resists change. You can have also a very functional, adaptive triangle that is trying to change itself. So stable triangles are trying to resist change, unstable triangles are trying to resist change, and the stability or instability of the triangle has nothing to do with the amount of stress or tension or dysfunction in that triangle. We're just talking about resistant to change or wanting to change. Are we on board with this? Are we okay with this? Okay, here we go. We're going to dive into it. We're going to get a little bit technical, but I'm hoping after we get familiar with this, we'll start to be able to even draw our own triangles if we want to kind of map out what's been happening in our relationship. So these are two different types of stable triangles. So the one with the 3 black lines, those are 3 individuals and everyone is getting along fine. One big happy triangle family. There's no unresolved tension here, right? This one is also a stable triangle, even though there's these 2 lines between this person, this person, this person, this person. This triangle also wants to stay the same. And I'll spend the next hour going over these, as well as these are 2 unstable triangles. And unstable triangles want to change, right? These are the 2 types of unstable triangles. This wants to change, and this one, there's a whole bunch of chaos. Nobody gets along with anyone else. This also wants to change. So these 2 triangles want to change. These 2 triangles wants to stay the same. Here we go. Here's some specific examples. So we have Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz. Stable triangle. Every person gets along with everyone else, right? These are the triangles we like because it's stable. Everyone's happy, and this triangle does not want to change. Why would we want to sacrifice this? Everyone gets along. So this triangle wants to stay the same. Abram, Hagar, and Sarai before Hagar got pregnant, right? But we talked before, it's not a dyad, it's a triad. That's the building block of relationships. As soon as Hagar gets pregnant, this changes, right? But right now, pre-pregnancy, everyone gets along. Here we have Miriam, baby Moses, Pharaoh's daughter. And then, let's bring Jochebed, the mother, into it, the bio mother. Everyone gets along here, right? This is one big, happy little construct where baby's taken care of, baby still has access to mother. Like there's this connection. These are 4 different stable triangles. Everything is stable, which means that these triangles resist change, right? Because stable triangles want to stay the same. Okay, here's the other type of stable triangle. God said, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. God, at the very beginning, had this non-conflictual relationship with humanity, but after the fall, God said, I don't want to give up on you. I still want to have a good relationship. Obviously, there was tension between God and the deceiver, and God said, I will put enmity between you and the woman. This is also a stable triangle. Why? We have a common enemy. We both know we have a common enemy. And it's stable because we can ally together against the common enemy. So this triangle in itself, this type of triangle, resists change because it's a stable triangle. Obviously, the deceiver wants to change that, right? He would want to either flip it so that maybe it's not squiggly between Satan and humanity. Maybe he wants to try and put some conflict between God and humanity. In fact, this is how he approached the whole Eve thing, right? Like, are you sure? What's the reason God doesn't want you to eat from the tree of good and evil? Is it because he knows there's some special knowledge? Trying to introduce something different here, right? So Satan is trying to change this triangle, but this triangle in and of itself is stable. It resists change. So if there's 3 people, X, Y, and Z, this is an unstable triangle. An unstable triangle. Why? Because Y is in a very difficult position. Y has 2 friends, X and Z. I get along with each of you, but you 2 are constantly bickering. Can't we all just get along? So it's difficult for Y to maintain this solid relationship with each individual. It's a very difficult situation for Y to be in. So it could be you and your partner and maybe your parents. Maybe your partner doesn't get along with your biological parents. And so you're like, wow, I don't want to have to choose a side between my partner and my parents. But that's what it feels like because there's conflict between these two parties. Here's another unstable triangle. You, friend number 1 and friend number 2. These two don't get along. And you're like, man, we used to hang out. We used to go to the park. We used to go on walks and hikes. And now you two can't even look at each other. I'm really interested in trying to help you two get along. They do an intervention. And all of a sudden, this person gets involved in their conflict. And when this person gets involved, they take on some of the stress of this relationship because each of these friends are trying to get you to join their side. They want you to listen to them, to ally with them. Come over here. You don't understand what friend 2 did to me. Because what they want to do is get you on their side so you can see their perfect point of view. And when you see their perfect point of view, then you also will have some conflict with the other friend. Because this unstable triangle wants to change so it can look a little bit more like this. They want to have you on their side so there's a common enemy. So what happens is, same sort of thing happens between you, your partner, and maybe a teenager. Maybe your partner is having a difficult situation with your teenager or with a cousin or an aunt or an uncle, and this person's like, man, can't we just all get along? Really wants that to happen because this triangle wants to change really bad. This triangle wants to, usually one of these legs over here become unstable, have some conflict because this triangle wants to change. Regardless of who's in it, I want you to separate the triangle from the people now. The triangle itself is unstable, so the triangle itself wants to change. What happens is there's this little path. If we're over here starting with the unstable triangle, this triangle wants to change. And so an unstable triangle wants to change to become a stable triangle, so it usually becomes something like this, where all of a sudden 3 people who don't get along, 2 of them will find some common ground, and now we have a common enemy. And then if you want to get all the way over here, you usually have to go through this other access point of instability where it's going to be uncomfortable for this person at the top until we get to this place. Now, we can't control other people. We could barely control ourselves on a good day. So we're not in charge of other people's relationships. We're only half in charge of our relationship with other people. We can't even control the way people respond to us. So it's difficult for this person at this spot to try and get this triangle over here because this triangle is unstable, and sometimes these people prefer the triangle look like this. I'd rather not resolve some of the conflict we experience. So the Bible says, no one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So me having 2 different masters, I'm getting pulled in 2 different directions. And it would make things so much more simple if I would just choose a side. Pick a side, right? It's hard to be in the middle. It's hard to stay on the fence because each side is trying to pull you towards them. So I don't know where this church is at when it comes to worship. Maybe there's a pro-drums camp, and maybe there's an anti-drums camp. I have no idea. And so Pastor Abel is like, okay, well, I'm not going to just not be a pastor to one side, so I need to make sure I'm caring for both sides, trying to figure out how to deal with the situation. This is an unstable triangle because one of them wants Abel to choose their side, right? How about this situation? Team law, team grace. When it comes to our theology, maybe Abel feels pulled in one of these directions by different people in the church, and he's like, well, I might have my personal preference, but if I choose one side, that means I'm not choosing the other side, and then these other people might become the enemy, so I need to try and make sure I'm still administering to everybody, so he's in this awkward position, but this triangle wants to change. Man, we don't know. I don't know if you have pets at home. I have no idea. Are you team dog or team cat? Dog, team dog. Okay, so notice he says he's team dog, but maybe it's just the triangle wanting him to choose a side, right? So he could choose the dog, and then he might have some tension or distance between him and the cats. I don't know if he's pro-mask or anti-mask. I know things are a little bit different here in Utah compared to California, and even the region of Utah and the region of California, maybe he's trying to make sure he can minister to both people who like to wear masks and those who don't, and not just choose one and kick the other side to the curb. So this is an unstable triangle because this unstable triangle wants him to pick a side, right? And we want the other person to pick our side. That's what we want. I don't know where you stand politically, but also I'm guessing there's some people in both camps here at the church. Which side you want to support? So he's in this awkward position. Wow, I need to minister to both sides, but I don't want to give up one of these connections. So this awkward position for Abel. Same thing, I don't know when it comes to how we approach COVID. I don't know when it comes to looking at global warming or not. But he can't stay on the fence forever. Well, he can, but there's going to be an emotional toll for him, trying to maintain a relationship with both because both parties are wanting to pull him to their side. This is a very uncomfortable position for him to be in, especially because he can't control other people. And I personally think this is one of the most difficult triangles to manage because we can get stuck here. The triangle wants to change, but we are not willing to sacrifice our relationships with other people just so the triangle can feel more stable. I looked at the carpet when I was here, and I looked at, what is this called? What's the upholstery on the pews? And I noticed that there is some of the chartreuse green here, but then when I went up to the balcony, isn't there some burnt orange carpet up there? Is that correct? So somehow they figured out a way to get both colors, but not on the same level, right? And so maybe there's some pulling, like let's just choose one of these colors. And right now, the colors of this church say, let's just choose one or the other. And so, but right now you have both, and you're making it work because it's on different levels. Okay, so as soon as Hagar gets pregnant, this relationship changes, right? Before it was a stable relationship, everyone got along, but all of a sudden the addition of a third party, the baby on the way, changed the relationship between Hagar and Sarah. And then when baby comes, we know that in the text, Sarah isn't even present when that happens. And normally she would have been, she's not even present because she doesn't want to have anything to do with that child. In fact, when she refers to it later on in the text, it's just the boy, the lad. She wouldn't even call him by his name. So it's clear that she has some conflict with Hagar as well as the baby. And this right here is a stable triangle, right? These two have a common enemy. Are we seeing that? So this triangle is stable. This triangle does not want to change. This triangle does, because this is an unstable triangle. So what will happen later on in the story? Someone help me out. What happens later on in the story when it comes to these individuals? Yes? Hagar runs away with baby in the belly, right? And then later on when she returns, what is Sarai's solution? Yes? Tell Abram to kick them out, right? She's saying, pick a side, buddy. You going to choose your wife or the maidservant? Whew, he's in this awkward position, right? So here's this exact story. Great answers over here on the left side. So let's actually include some of these other participants, right? So we have Isaac and Ishmael. Here we go. Abraham, I'm just going to assume he has a good relationship with Isaac as well as with Ishmael and Sarah and Hagar. So right now, Abraham is like, okay, I'm going to try and make sure I'm connecting with each individual. There's some conflict here. We know that Sarah prefers Isaac. So this right here, this triangle, is this stable or unstable? Stable, good. Does a stable triangle want to change or does it want to stay the same? Good, it wants to stay the same. Awesome. Oh, we're doing it now. I love this. This one right here, I'm guessing Hagar appreciates her biological son. So is this triangle stable or unstable? Awesome. So we have two stable triangles and one unstable triangle. But we find out later that Ishmael is Isaacing Isaac, right? The feast, Ishmael is Isaacing Isaac. And Sarah does not like that. And we know how she feels towards Ishmael, right? So let's take a moment, take a breath. Let's look at all these triangles. So this is unstable right here. Abraham's trying to maintain a good relationship with both of his sons. This triangle right here, Sarah and Isaac. This is a stable triangle because Sarah and Isaac have a common enemy, Ishmael. This triangle right here, Hagar and Ishmael and Sarah, this is a stable triangle. They have a common enemy. And so we have some stable triangles and some unstable triangles. And right now, Abraham is the only person that's in that awkward position in two different unstable triangles. And unstable triangles want to change. There's pressure to change. So the solution? Let's just get rid of them, right? Let's kick them out. And then we just have one simple, stable triangle. We talked last night about how when someone is kicked out of the family, does the anxiety magically disappear? No. It is still there. It's just latent. And we can see, looking at the generations following Isaac versus Ishmael, what's happening even currently in our geopolitical climate from that rift. Okay, because diamonds are forever and triangles are forever. Just because one person passes away does not mean the anxiety disappears. It's just redistributed amongst the rest of the family members. So here's another unstable triangle, and unstable triangles want to change. We have Laban and Jacob and Leah. This is another unstable triangle. And again, if this triangle wants to get here, there's a long process to get there. Because the triangles themselves have influence over our interactions. I want you to almost imagine the triangle has a mind of its own. And the stable triangles are like, whoa, I don't want to make any changes here. No thanks. But stable triangles are looking to change because the triangles themselves are unstable. And maybe you're here thinking, wow, I'm listening to Bryan talk about stable and unstable triangles, but I'm afraid to ask what he's even talking about because I'm a little bit lost. I'm half there or a quarter there. And I thought I understood it 2 slides ago, but then I realized I didn't. So we have a little conversation. Let's get in small groups of like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no more than that, smaller groups. And I want you to answer these questions. 1, what is the difference between stable triangles and unstable triangles? Can you draw or provide an example of a stable triangle? And then can you draw or provide an example of an unstable triangle? So go ahead and talk together in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no more than that. And let's try and answer these questions in your group. There'll be some time later on, Mario, when we might, yeah, at the very end, we might have some more time. Yeah. This is more just like a conceptual check to see if we're all tracking. Yeah. All right, who wants another minute? Okay, you can have another minute. Okay. Someone hear a good explanation either out of your own mouth or someone else's mouth. What's the difference between stable versus unstable triangles? Yes. Yeah, say it again.
Change.
And which is the one that wants to change?
The one that wants to change is the unstable.
Close.
The stable.
No, that's right. No, you're right,
Oh.
and I'm wrong. I'm going to let you take this mic up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. The unstable triangle wants to change. The stable triangle does not. Now, can someone describe or draw an example of a stable triangle? Yes.
Okay, so an example of a stable triangle would be either all solid
Yep.
sides of the triangle,
Good.
and an unstable triangle would be one solid with two unsolid, like squiggly.
Close. You're close. So that would be another type of stable triangle.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I
but
meant.
you're mentioning two types of the stable triangles.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Awesome. Good.
Describing just the stable.
Is there a question about this? If you have a common enemy, that's stable.
We want to hear you.
Oh, really? Am I?
Yeah.
I thought I was.
Everyone online is waiting with bated breath.
Oh, sorry. So I simplify it to me in my brain. It's just if we got a common enemy, that's stable.
Yep. If
If
you have
we
a
all
common
get
enemy.
along, that's stable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only when we have a rift.
Yeah. When it's uncomfortable for one person, they have
Yeah.
to try to decide
They have to choose.
who to choose. That's unstable. Good. So all get along or common enemy, that's stable. So all the other options are unstable. Good. Either nobody gets along with anyone else, and that triangle wants to change so that two people can repair their relationship, and now we have a common enemy. Whew, now I know my role in the triangle, or at least how I'm feeling about the triangle. And the other one is, I don't want to choose one over the other. I'm going to try and maintain a relationship with both, even though they are fighting like cats and dogs. That's also unstable. Great. Yes.
We have a question. On the ones where all squiggly on the triangle,
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is kind of a weird question, but so that one's just all squiggly, right? And that's considered unstable.
Uh-huh.
But wouldn't it be considered stable too? Because, for example, the one before where it has the two lines,
This one?
no, the two solid lines and
Uh-huh.
then the squiggly line on the bottom, that makes sense because one person likes both of like two people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when there's all of them, they don't get along. Like, what's the purpose of wanting to get along? Shouldn't that be a stable triangle too?
Good question. Awesome question. Shouldn't this be a stable triangle too? Let's pretend that you and I and Mario are like, let's say we're going on a hike, and we all want to go different paces on the hike. Like you would just want to power up the mountain. I kind of want to take my time, and she's like, I'm going to go faster than both of you. I'm going to run up the mountain. So we're all going different speeds. It would be really nice to have a partner to walk with me up the mountain. If I could just get one person on my side, finally, like Mario slowed down. Now we're walking together. Man, she's just blazing the trail ahead of us. Like, what is she doing? She should slow down for us. All of a sudden, we're in cahoots together because someone's on my side. It's not fun to hike alone. It's better to have someone with you and then complain about the other person. So once we can move to stability, like, man, Jasmine's just so fast. That's very rude. She invited us on this hike. She planned this whole thing, and she has the picnic basket as well. But Mario and I are just like, we're going, but like, now we can like talk and complain about the whole process all the way up. Whereas when we're by ourselves, it's not fun for anybody, right? That's why this one wants to change. Good. How does that work? Okay. Great question. Appreciate that. And I'm sure that 50% of the people online also had the same question, but they couldn't get access to me. So, awesome. Okay. So imagine that spouse A has a good friend, a really good friend that lives in Salt Lake. Right? And this friend lives in North Ogden. And every once in a while they get together to do yoga. I don't know. And all of a sudden, something happens between these two friends. And because of that, is this a stable or an unstable triangle? Good, unstable, right. So this unstable triangle wants to change, right. And this person is in an awkward position, right. So spouse A is like, wow, I wish we could all get together to do yoga again, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I don't know what to do here. So what does spouse A do? That's right, they talk with spouse B. Hey, partner, come over. Let me tell you about my two best friends. We can't get together anymore. So all of a sudden, I don't want to choose either of these sides. I'm going to talk with my spouse about it that I have a good relationship with. Now, when spouse B hears about the anxiety that's happening here, that has been generated into this relationship, spouse B might already have an opinion about which friend is better, right? So all of a sudden, spouse B says, well, I like this person because they like the Utah Jazz. But this person doesn't even watch basketball, so I don't even care about them. So all of a sudden, like some triangles are forming here. Do we see that? Let's look at these triangles. So this one right here is stable, right? Spouse A, spouse B, friend A, that's stable. Spouse A, spouse B, and friend B, this is an unstable triangle now, right? Because this person, he or she is caught in the middle. This right here is a stable triangle because they have a common enemy. So this spouse is in two unstable triangles, and unstable triangles want to change, so there might be pressure to pick a side. My partner likes this person. This other friend doesn't like this person. So maybe this line may potentially change to make everything stable. Let's go in this situation, spouse A and spouse B. And there's an in-law involved. There's some conflict between them. They don't know what to do. I'm going to just talk with my bio parent over here to talk with them about what's happening. Come here, you know what my spouse is doing? They decided not to take out the trash anymore. They stopped mowing the lawn, or the car's not been washed since January, whatever the case is. So in-law B takes the bait and starts to get involved in the triangle. Well, they should be fulfilling their responsibilities. What changed in 2022 that they couldn't wash the car anymore? Like, they got to get on the horn. Let's get back on that horse. So now this is a stable triangle. Do you see that? Stable triangle is a common enemy. Well, spouse A also has their biological parents. Can you believe what his or her father said to me about the car? Such a snide remark. What? He said, what? I can't believe I told you not to marry this person, right? All this. Now, is this a stable triangle or unstable triangle? Ooh, both? I'm hearing both. Heads and tails and heads. This right here, they have a common enemy, right? Common enemy. So this is a stable triangle. So this is stable and this is stable, which means right now the triangles are resisting change. The triangles do not want to change. And so maybe like, how dare you talk to my son that way? How dare you talk to my daughter that way? There's some conflict here. And because of that, this triangle right here, is this stable or unstable? This is stable. There's a common enemy here. How about this one? Is this stable or unstable? Stable. So all of these triangles right now are stable, which means all of these triangles resist change. This is how we get locked into our families. People have to pick a side, and it's hard to change because you're fighting against the stability of the triangles. And right now there are 4 triangles right here, and none of them want to change. There's a hand over here. No hand. Fake hand. Half hand. Stretch hand. That's okay. We're allowed to stretch in here. So there's quite a bit of unresolved tension here, but the triangles themselves are resisting change. Okay. But let's say spouse A and spouse B decide to work things out. They go to counseling, or they have some heart-to-heart, and they realize, oh, I didn't understand you wanted the car washed every single month. I thought it was only when it was dirty, and I thought the rain counted as a wash. I didn't really understand that. And now that the rain has stopped, now I agree it's also dirty. So they repair their relationship. And in doing so, other triangles are automatically changed. You see that? Before, all the triangles are stable. Now, is this a stable or unstable triangle? Unstable. Oh, I love this. Because spouse A is like trying to maintain a good relationship with their parents as well as their spouse, but there's some beef here. How about this one right here? Is this stable or unstable? Good. Also unstable because like I'm getting along with my partner now and with my parent, but there's still some beef here. Right. This one is still stable, right? There's a common enemy. This one is still stable, but because both of these spouses are in unstable triangles, the triangles themselves want to change because they're unstable. So maybe something happens, some conversation happens, and spouse B starts to get frustrated with in-law B, with their biological parents, because this person is still holding this grudge towards this person. Even though they've resolved the whole car issue. It's not that big of a deal, Mom. Like, now we go and wash our car on the first of the month. Now we're on the same page. But you're still frustrated with them. Can't you just give them a little bit of space? Well, I'm still mad that you married them. Okay, so that's what it's about. It's not even about the car wash, right? We're fighting about the car wash, but it's not about the car wash. So this is now a stable triangle. They have a common enemy. And this is an unstable triangle now. Nobody gets along with anyone else. But these two get along, and maybe in-law A decides, hey, I'm going to repair everything with spouse B. So this is a stable triangle. This is a stable triangle. This is a stable triangle. So now we're back to everything being stable again. Are we seeing this? And now in-law B is the bad guy. Nobody gets along with him. All because this person was willing in the first place to get involved in what was happening here. They could have avoided this by saying, you know what? This sounds like an issue between you two. I don't need to get involved. But because they got involved, things twisted and shifted, and now nobody is wanting to spend time with them. How are we feeling about this idea? Stability and instability. Let's pretend there's a church and a church school and some kids. Okay? And let's say there's some people at the church school, some administrators, who are not using money in the way they should be using. Maybe an unethical approach to using money. And because of that, people at the church start to not like what's happening, right? So this was a stable triangle, right? Everyone gets along, until some parties here start to mismanage money or start using the money in the way they want to, but not in an equitable way. And all of a sudden, there's some conflict here, and this becomes an unstable triangle. And unstable triangles want to change, right? But the kids are put in this awkward position because maybe they like the school, but they also like the church. But we have some people at the church who are protesting what's happening. These administrators are not acting ethically. They're not acting in the best interest of the school or the church. And so they end up sending their children to a different school because they don't like what's happening here. So all of a sudden, we have this, it was unstable, but now the kids aren't going there anymore. And so this shifts to a stable triangle. So now the people at church and the kids have this common enemy, this church school. Have you seen this so far? Yeah. And these people who are protesting are kind of leading some of this because they don't like what happened over here. But time moves on, the calendar rolls, their earth circles the sun, and these people end up leaving the school. They're no longer part of the school. But we still have this triangle with the school. We still have this narrative about the school. And this is a stable triangle, and stable triangles do not want to change. They are resisting change. And so let's say there are some new people, maybe some new family that comes to the church. Hey, we love it up here. We love the Ogden SDA. And we heard you had a church school. Oh, yeah, we have a church school, but some shady things were happening there. So you may not want to go there. So there's a narrative about the church school that is shared with these new families. Oh, well, I guess people at the church, I get along, I like these people, and they told me what's going on with the school, what happened in the past, so I guess that I'm just going to do as they do in Rome and do whatever they do. So they start to maybe have some distance with this particular church, with this school, even though they were not present when the whole shebangle went down. But they developed this narrative about the school. So because of that, this is also a stable triangle which resists change. And let's say down the line, like these kids get along with these kids, but as time moves on, there's also a stable triangle. These kids turn into adults with their own kids, right? So the question is, where are these adults going to send their children? Because right now, all of these triangles are stable. And the school is the common enemy. So everything's stable. And maybe there are some people in the church who used to protest and now like, you know what? We should really try and repair the relationship with the church school. What can we do to change this right here? Even though everything is stable right now, what can we do to like work it out, try and find out something that works for everybody so we can repair this relationship? As soon as you repair one leg of these interlocking triangles, other triangles change. Everything was stable, and now just by changing this one leg, this becomes an unstable triangle. So now the church is trying to maintain a relationship with these kids over here as well as this school, but there's still some conflict or distance or old narratives here. And this is also unstable, looking at, which one? Oh, here we go. Unstable triangle right here between the new families and the school. Because I would just convince them just a few years ago not to go to this school. right? And now I'm changing my tune. Actually, the school, like, let's support the school. Let's go there. So the church is in these two unstable triangles. And if you're stuck here, I heard this is something that might be happening here. Is this similar? What? Could be. Okay. Could be. If we're stuck here in this situation, the recommended, I don't know all the details, the recommended resolution isn't rah, 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 like let's change your attitude about the school. It's probably to attend to the violated value. The reason there's conflict between different people in a triangle is usually there's some sort of value that was violated between two individuals, and that's why there's this tension. So I would ask myself, what is the violated value, the original violated value, that still has not been adequately attended to? And usually, when there's a violated value, people want some sort of official apology. And I like my apology served two ways: with deep remorse about what happened, and a promise of changed behavior. If there's no remorse, I won't buy it. If I don't see changed behavior or a promise of changed behavior, I'm not interested. So a true satisfying apology will have these two main ingredients. So if this needs to change, this relationship needs to change, this relationship needs to change. And let's notice, these two individuals were not the ones who originally experienced all the hooligan-ness over here. It was these individuals who are protesting. The fact that they're more on board with what's happening could be helpful, but there's still maybe some violated value that still needs some attention. The original pain needs to be addressed. How are you feeling about this idea? Any questions about this? No? Okay. Here we go. Let's get back into Genesis now. And I heard some of the conversation over here, and it felt like someone was looking at my slides. So we have Jacob, who prefers Rachel, right? And does not prefer Leah. In fact, there's a lot of distance between Jacob and Leah. And between the two sisters, do you think they get along? No. Is this a stable or unstable triangle? Stable, that's right. There's a common enemy. Leah, the common enemy. This is stable. How about this? Jacob gets along with his son Joseph, and Joseph probably gets along with Rachel. So this is a stable triangle. So far, no triangles want to change. Then there's some tension, obviously, between the other sons, not just Leah's sons, it's also Bilhah's sons and Joseph. There's some tension there, but Leah and Leah's sons get along. And as soon as we add this relational line, there's a whole bunch of other stable triangles that show up, right? Common enemies, common enemies, common enemies. And we think about how Jacob did not respond to Dinah's sexual assault and how his sons, how Leah's sons were upset with that. So here's another relational line, and this makes all stable triangles. So everything here is stable. Every triangle here resists change. Wow, what does that mean? It means even if the people wanted to potentially repair the relationship, because of all these stable triangles, they're up against a lot. Because the triangles themselves, not the people in them, but the structure of the triangle themselves, are resisting change. This is why change is sometimes hard with people, sometimes hard with families. This is why, as a family therapist, I like to get as many people in the room as possible. I'd prefer to work with 3 or 4 people in the family instead of just one. Because if I can get a whole bunch of people in the room, we can have conversations about this. We can sort some things out. We can talk about injuries. We can try and repair some of those relationships. And all of a sudden, we're able to repair a whole bunch of things, and triangles change. It's hard when I'm just working with one person, because one person isn't responsible for other people's behavior. So these are all stable, which means this family right now, even though there's a lot of dysfunction and there's a big rift in the family, Team Rachel, Team Leah, this resists change. So Rachel dies, right? And Benjamin comes in. But Rachel passes away, which means she's gone, but those relationships, even though she's gone, the tension from those relationships are still present, right? And when one person passes away, the anxiety that was experienced with that person doesn't disappear. It just gets redistributed amongst the rest of the family members. And as soon as she passes away, some other difficult things are happening in the family, and we see how this is distributed. In fact, we know that the sons kick out Joseph, and Joseph is gone, so now it's just Benjamin. But again, all of these are stable triangles. Again, still resisting change. So let's just notice, even though you kick someone out, doesn't mean things are necessarily going to change. How are we feeling about this idea? Good, okay. So now Jacob only has one wife, right? And if you remember the story, Leah is buried with Jacob. So something has happened because Leah is buried with Jacob. So I wonder if something has been repaired here. Because if there was so much tension between them, he may not want her buried with her. I don't know, but something has happened here because now he's buried with her when they both die. We know that happens. And this becomes an unstable triangle. Are we seeing that? And if we move on down in Genesis, remember how Joseph had this test for his brothers? You know, I'll keep Simeon, you go back to your father, you can bring the food, and he puts the coin in their sacks and says, but if you come back, you better bring your brother Benjamin, right? Because he wants to see how they treat the preferred brother of their father. Is it still like this, or is it different? And we know that when Benjamin comes and Joseph sets them all in birth order around the table, they're amazed at what's happening. Then he sends them back up with their grain, and he puts the divination cup in Benjamin's bag. Remember that? We talked about this on Friday night. And then as they're halfway back to Canaan, a servant from Joseph runs after them. Someone stole the divination cup. And well, it's not us. It's not. You can check all of our bags. Look through all the bags. Finally come to Benjamin's bag, and it's in the cup. And all the brothers tear their clothing in grief. So it's clear something has changed here as well, right? Some sort of repair has happened in this relationship. So these are unstable. So this is unstable here. This becomes unstable. And I don't know how much tension was put here or not, but I know that down the road, this is happening because we are all working together. So somehow it went from, hold on, so let me go back to, it went from this kind of stability all the way to this kind of stability. It didn't happen overnight. That took time. So families can change. And what I want you to take from this is all you have to do, now I don't want you to use this to manipulate, to pull the strings like Rebecca did. What I want you to notice is all it takes is for one relational line between people. One relational line changes, and all of a sudden, other triangles become unstable. So there's a lot of instability here. All it took was for, let me go back a little farther. There we go. All this instability, all it took was for one relational line to change, and all of a sudden, a lot of the stability, the resistance from those triangles dissipated, and they changed to wanting more change. So what does this mean? If you're stuck in a family where there's a whole bunch of complex triangles and they're all stable and nobody wants to budge, we're entrenched in our positions, all you have to do is say, you know what? I'm going to look around. Is there a relationship with anyone else that experiences a conflict that I'm sharing in that relationship? And maybe I can try really hard to repair the wrong that was done. Maybe there's a value that was violated that I did on purpose or inadvertently. I'm going to address that. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to show remorse. I'm going to promise my changed behavior or show the changed behavior to them in order to repair that one-on-one relationship. And as soon as you do that, there's pressure on the rest of the family because triangles that were stable become unstable. And unstable triangles want to change. So we are not in control of other people, but we do have some influence over our half of relationships with people. And we can repair those relationships, which puts pressure on everyone else. Because now some people who were hunky-dory in a stable relationship, now they have to decide, wow, I didn't have to make a choice before because there was a common enemy. But now that's not what's happening. So what do I do? So you actually put quite a bit of pressure on the family system when you are willing to repair your relationships with other people. Sometimes this means repairing a relationship with people who are cut off from the family, no longer invited to things. And you need to think about safety, you need to think about your well-being. Don't sacrifice those. But if you can repair an old rift that doesn't need to be there, you might be able to change what's happening within the entire family. And it's not you doing it, it's the pressure from the triangles, from stable to unstable. Ask me a question about this. Yeah.
The mic man is here.
Soft answer turns away wrath.
Mm-hmm.
And Bible talks a lot about if you want to be forgiven, forgive.
Yes. Yes. And if you can do that, if you can forgive the other person who wronged you, maybe this person is so upset that you've been holding this grudge for so long. And that's a new value that's been violated. I can't believe you did that. Yeah, I did this to you back when I was 10 years old, but come on, it's been 30 years. It's not that big of a deal. Like, let that grudge go. If you're able to do that, you might free up the other person to realize, oh, I don't have to be in the same posture anymore. Now there's more space. Maybe, oh, I'm feeling pulled in this direction, and people may not be able to put their finger on it, but you will, because you can dry out the triangles that you're in your relationships. Yes? Doing a great job, Mario.
So in repairing things, sometimes if something bad happened to a child when they were young and they're growing up and the person that it did to are dead and gone, you can't make that right with them, but you can forgive that person. But even by forgiving that person, it can change the triangle because other people in the family can say, wow, how could they forgive them? So it changes it too, even though you can't make it right with that person because they're gone.
Agreed. And even if they're still around, you can forgive someone and still call the cops on them. It's okay to do that. Just because you forgave someone doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable. You can still hold them accountable. You need to be safe. But that's still different from not forgiving them. But, I mean, we can't force other people to forgive other people, right? That's not our job. Like, if I'm already resistant, like not sure if I want to forgive someone, what's not going to help me is someone trying to chirp in my ear, you better forgive them, Bryan. Oh, boy, I'm going to dig in my heels, right? But, again, this is not for manipulation. What you can do is repair your relationships with other people. And all of a sudden, maybe the reason they don't want to forgive someone is because the triangle right now is stable. And the triangle doesn't want to change. So if the triangle is resisting change, that might actually be resisting my willingness to forgive someone. But if someone else is repairing their relationship with other people, all of a sudden triangles that were stable become unstable. Now the triangle might be more open to change. There's a chance I might also therefore be more open to forgiving someone. How are we feeling about this relationship between my actions influenced by the stability or instability of the triangles? I mean, if you can get this, you'll have a lot of insight into possibilities. Because sometimes we feel really stuck on our families, and we don't exactly know why. We know it's polarized, this camp and this camp, and it might be because all of the triangles are stable, and we don't know how to bridge that gap. But if we can address the violated value, potentially change some of these relationships, then there's opportunity for new dynamics within these relationships. All right, let's take a break, just for like 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes, maybe a 7-minute bio break, bathroom, walk around, come back, and we'll finish this up. All right. Come on back. So we've talked about your role, your position, and the stability of the triangle. Now it's time to figure out, how do we detriangulate ourselves? Brian's been talking for a long time. What are we supposed to do now in these relationships, now that we know all these things? How are we supposed to navigate these relationships? And I want you to know that just because you want to do something, other people in your family may not want you to change. They may like the role that you currently play in that family. They may like the way that things are. They may not want change, and they might protest any sort of behavioral changes or attitudinal changes that you do. They may not like that. So I just want you to know right off the bat, if you try and make some changes, there might be some pushback or protest from other family members, because even if they don't necessarily like the way that it currently is, they're familiar with it. And because they're familiar with it, it's hard to move from something that is familiar to something that is not familiar. And if you change your attitude or behavior, that's going to be not familiar to them because they're used to something. So first thing you need to do is change your mindset. And the first mindset change you need to do is figure out, is it my problem or their problem? And if you can, this can be one of the very first litmus tests to help you figure out, do I try and help or not? Because if it's my problem, I have a responsibility, an immediate responsibility. If it's their problem, you might not have as much responsibility, right? We can't completely avoid triangles. We will always be in triangles, always. But we do not have to be an active participant in those triangles. We can take more of an outside position. So let's think about some of the triangles we're involved in when it comes to our family. A little reflection, think about this. And think about a particularly difficult triangle that's in your family, and feel free to, as I'm talking, draw it on I think there's a blank space on the piece of paper, if you want to draw it down. And here are some of the basic steps how to detriangulate yourself. So draw one of those triangles. And the first step is, before you say or do anything, remember that there's a chance that you are already absorbing some of that anxiety. There's a chance you've already taken the hot potato from them, their hot potato. And the stuff that you're dealing with might not be yours to begin with. So you might be taking on some of their anxiety and trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? So before you do anything, just wonder, get curious, am I already absorbing some of their anxiety? Because when you start to suspect that what they're sharing is not your problem, you can start to push back a little bit. And then when you really know that this anxiety does not belong to you, this is my youngest daughter, Phoenix. When you realize that the problem is not yours and that it's their anxiety that you're catching, then you know, okay, this is probably not mine because it's their problem and their anxiety, and they're trying to pass me the responsibility as well as the accompanying anxiety, and I do not have to take it. So you're not responsible for other people's outcomes. Responsible for your outcomes, but you are not responsible for other people's outcomes. You're not responsible for their happiness, their choices, their behavior. That's on them. You're responsible for your own happiness, choices, and behavior. So the two immediate questions: is this my problem? Is this my anxiety? Because anxiety spreads from person to person, and it can be real difficult to differentiate whether it's yours or someone else's. So just take a quick question. Take a moment, get curious. Okay, I'm feeling anxious and a little bit nervous or frustrated. Is it because it's theirs and they're passing it on to me? Or is it my own? And is this my problem or their problem that they're trying to give me? And these two important tasks. So these are the two important questions to ask yourself. And these are the two important tasks that I'm recommending. One, if you're not sure, draw the triangle. Okay, it's me, the other person, and I think there's a third party involved. Draw it out, and you can immediately see, is this triangle stable or unstable? Then you can identify, what are the roles in the triangle? What kind of role am I playing? What kind of role are other people playing? Am I the outsider or the insider? And then you can make a lesson plan. This is not something that is done in 2 seconds. You're going to have to sit back and really reflect upon this and be very intentional about what's happening. Because if you just listen to your feelings, your emotions, you might just be pulled in certain directions, right? So there needs to be some moments where you've taken some time to do some reflection. Is this my problem? Is this my anxiety? Sketch out the triangle and then make a lesson plan. What is your plan? How am I going to move forward in this triangle? And when you set boundaries, it doesn't mean you're a cold-hearted robot. In fact, if you're able to take care of yourself, then you might actually have more to give later, right? So, first thing you want to do, and hopefully in this lesson plan, is move to the outside position. I know what's happening here. They're trying to rope me in so I can solve their problem. But it's their problem, not mine. So I need to take the outside position, realizing this is not my responsibility to fix. This is theirs. I'm not going to make a judgment, but I'm not going to take sides, and I'm not going to hold secrets for either party, because holding secrets can be heavy. You don't want to hold secrets. And then, okay, I'm in the outside position. They're going to bring stuff to me. I don't want to amplify it. So what's my other option? I want to be an anxiety dampener. Okay, I'm going to remain calm. This is their anxiety. I'm sensing some of it, but it's theirs. It's not mine. So I'm going to remain cool, calm, and collected, because my calmness can also transfer to them, just like their anxiety is flowing over to me. So I'm in the outside position. I'm going to be non-emotionally reactive, and I'm going to recognize where I'm located in the triangle and if the triangle is stable or unstable. Because if I can see the triangle is unstable, oh, that makes sense. I'm at the top, and I'm trying to maintain a connection with both of them. And that's why I'm feeling the tension to get involved in their relationship. But I know the more I get involved, the more I will experience the tension of that relationship. So I don't want to do that, but that's why I'm feeling pulled, because this is an unstable triangle. Okay, I see what's happening here. I know what's happening. They're trying to give me their problem and spread their anxiety onto me, and the triangle itself is trying to get some change. But I don't need to listen to them or the triangle. You can make some intentional decisions. So from a neutral yet encouraging stance, here are some phrases that you can use. 1, so what are you going to do about it? What do you think needs to happen next? In fact, the rest of these phrases have one key ingredient. You're just saying you. Second person singular or second person plural, so they can share all the stuff with you. Instead of taking it on by yourself, you're gently telling them, no, okay, this is yours. What do you think needs to happen next? Not, I have a good idea, I have a solution. It's all about what they're going to do. You're resourceful. I bet you can find a good solution, a good way through this. What do you think should happen next? You're not judgmental, you're neutral, you're calm. Well, I know you're capable of taking the best course of action for yourself, and you'll be able to know what's ultimately in your best interest. What do you think is going to happen? Again, putting it back on them. You. I'm sorry you're in this difficult situation, but I'm confident that you two can find a resolution. What do you think you need to get there? Again, you're gently saying, this is not my problem, but I also believe that this can be taken care of by you. How are we feeling about this idea? So you can still listen, but you're not taking that stress and anxiety and tension and hot potato onto your lap, because it's not yours. You say, oh, I see what's happening here. This doesn't belong on my plate. This is yours. So how are you going to handle it? What do you think will happen next? And you put this back on them, because it's their problem to fix, not your problem to resolve. And sometimes they might come with urgent needs, and this urgency, we have to fix it now, we have to fix it now. Man, that is the best time to allow them to have the opportunity to fix it, instead of you robbing them of that chance by giving them a spoon-fed solution. We need them to learn how to resolve their own challenges. And if you're able to do this, take the outside position, be anxiety dampener, recognize it's their problem, their anxiety, not yours. You have a plan, and you're able to say that, use the second person singular or second person plural language. What do you think you're going to do about it? Then you're actually able to be more aware and more objective about what's actually happening. They're pulling me in this direction. This is the triangle that wants to change, but I'm not willing to change my values just because the triangle wants to change. And so you don't react to their anxiety. Instead, you respond in accordance with your values. And if you don't think through this whole thing, it's super easy to get sucked into other people's business. So easy. In fact, this is probably a pattern that happened over and over and over. And if you are in a triangle with family members or friends, you can pretty much predict what's going to be happening because you've been in that position for a long time. So it's not like you have to make this up on the fly. Draw the triangle, recognize your position, whose anxiety, whose problem it is, if the triangle is stable or unstable, and then what you want to do in accordance with your values. And there's a chance you might be stuck in an unstable triangle where you have a good connection with one person and a good connection with the other person, and these two people are unwilling to resolve stuff. So you have a decision to make. Do I make my life easier by picking a side so there's more stability in the triangle? Or do I say I'm not willing to sacrifice a relationship for more stability, which means I'm going to remain in this unstable triangle which constantly is wanting me to pick a side. And in doing so, I'm also putting the other two people in an uncomfortable position because they know I'm not willing to sacrifice the other person and I'm always going to be with them. So maybe by you staying in this unstable position, you are in this unstable triangle at the top, trying to maintain a good relationship over here and here, you are actually subtly putting some pressure on them to potentially work some things out. It may not be now, it may not be next week or next year, it may be never. We can't control the outcome. We are poor predictors of the future. We're just not good at it when it comes to humanity. We're not very good at it. But what we can do is do our best to act in accordance with our values. So, something will happen if on the outside, when you're in the outside relationship, when you're outside of the triangle, you start to train people that you're not willing to take on their business. And when you start to train people that you won't take on their business, they start to realize, this person won't come and save me. I have to figure out another way to resolve my issues. And all of a sudden they start to gain some mastery over themselves, or they find someone else to come and rescue them, right? Maybe they look for someone else to come and rescue. And if that's the case, you don't make decisions for other people. If this other person wants to be this hero, this savior, feel good about themselves because now they're the new person, the firefighter to come and put out all the fires, well, at least it's not you, and that wasn't really your role in the first place anyways. And if enough people do this, unwilling to take on other people's business, then everyone will start to realize, I need to take care of my own stuff. Whenever I go to them, they listen, but they always say, what are you going to do about it? What do you think should happen next? Every time I go talk with him or her or them, whenever that happens, I walk away having some ideas, but those ideas came from me. They were my ideas about what I should do next. Sometimes we're so anxious or upset or distressed, it's hard for us to think straight. And all it takes is for one person to be this calming presence to say, wow, that's a big deal. I can see why you're upset. I would be upset too. What do you think is going to happen next? For them to hear you, acknowledge how difficult it is, but then put it back on you. And you can start to realize, maybe I do have some skills and the ability to solve some of my own problems. And if we start to do this, then we're no longer dependent on other people to resolve our problems. It's really difficult to always be dependent on someone to solve this problem that I feel like I can't fix. So I'm not a mechanic, not a mechanic. If there's something wrong with the car, I call a mechanic because I'm not a mechanic, so I am dependent on someone. And when they are not available until next Thursday, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 6 days. What am I going to do for 6 days? What am I going to do? And it forces me to get creative to solve the problem, or I find another mechanic. It forces me to do some things, and this is an uncomfortable situation. And if it's not about cars, it's about the families, I might get really upset that someone is not immediately available to solve my problem right now. But if you can let them know, okay, I'll be with you. I'm busy. You're busy this weekend? I have a crisis. As long as it's not about safety or well-being, it's a little bit different when it's one of those. Though sometimes people will talk about safety and well-being stuff just to get your attention. You have to be smart about this. But if there's no safety well-being involved, you know what? Let's talk on Monday. On Monday, it's Friday night. I know. I'm busy this week. You're busy? You always used to talk with me. I know. I'm happy to chat on Monday. At lunch or in the evening? In the evening? I want you on call, right? Right? I'm dependent. I need you right. Okay, yeah. I'll see you on Monday. Hang up the phone. Fine, it's Monday. Let's talk about it. And then you're listening. Okay, what do you think is going to happen? Well, that doesn't help me. You've given me nothing. Okay. So what do you think is going to happen next? I don't know. That's why I came to you. Okay. So what do you think is the first step? I don't know. Maybe we could do option A or option B. Okay. So what do you like about option A or option B? Well, I like this. Okay. It sounds like you have two good options. Well, you're not telling me what to do. That's what I want. I want someone to come in and fix all my problems and me not have to think about it. I want to be dependent on you because it's hard to touch my own stuff. I'd rather touch other people's stuff, not my own. In fact, a lot of people who broker in sweet, hot, steamy anxiety potatoes sometimes are really good at passing other people's potatoes around, but do not want to touch their own stuff. But they need to. In fact, if they did that, they'd have more capacity to play in other people's stuff. Actually, what they might find is, hey, I can deal with my own stuff. Now I don't need the endorphin kick of dealing with other people's stuff too. There's a chance they might change their behavior. So, I want you to draw out your triangles, and I'm going to be answering questions now. If you have questions about everything we've talked about, but first we're going to go into explain it to Charlie again. I want you to get in small groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no more than that. And I want you to talk about what can I do to detriangulate myself from challenging triangles? And how could the ability to detriangulate myself help my family or my church? So what can I do to detriangulate myself? And if I can do this, how would this help my church or my family? I love the conversations that are happening. So I want to see, do we want another minute, or do you want me to continue? Another half hour, okay. I'm not that generous. But luckily, you can do that on your own time, right? Okay, so let's just kind of jump into this. So what's something you heard, either from your own mouth or someone else's mouth? What's something you can do to help detriangulate yourself? Oh, Mario is ready. He's like, I'm not even going to wait for someone to raise. I'm up, I'm ready. Mookie Betts, watch out. Something over there.
Don't get involved in the first place.
Ooh. Ooh. Preventative, right? Instead of like needing to do the whole process of, oh boy, hold on, I got to be the outsider, I got to change, but just don't get involved in the first place. Oh man, like, mic drop. Like, we should just end it right there. So for those of you online, you can turn it off right. You're not going to hear anything better than that right there. Good. So let's say you've already been caught. How can you detriangulate yourself afterwards? That's one of the things you can do. Make sure people in the future who are watching this can hear this.
Be the outsider.
Yeah, be the outsider. It's not my issue, it's yours. So I don't want to rob you of the opportunity to fix that. I'm just going to step back a little bit of distance. And remember, like I said before, if I'm right next to my daughter as she's trying to put on her shoes, she's going to constantly be looking to me to step in and help. I can't do it. But if I put your shoes on, I'm going to go get lunch ready. Oh, or go get your snack for the car. Then she's by herself. She's much more likely to put in some good effort. There are times I have to come back and provide a little bit of help. But if I'm right there, it's really easy just to like, well, I'm dependent on you. Just fix this. Say it again. Even if she puts it on the wrong foot, that's a great learning opportunity. Yeah. Even if she puts the shoes on the wrong foot, that's a great learning opportunity. And I might not come and say, oh, you did it wrong. I might just let it be there for a little bit. And then go later on, oh, I noticed that your shoes on the wrong foot. What do you think you should do about that? Boom. And go, unless I'm in a hurry, in which case, no, you put them on wrong. Here we go, put them on, get in the car. There are certain situations where I come in and I solve the problem. But when I have some emotional capacity and I realize it's not my problem that the shoes aren't on, because I know she can do it, she is capable, then I let her struggle a little bit. It's okay to get some spaghetti sauce on your shirt once in a while. That's all right. We also then get to learn how to clean it up. Also a valuable skill. Good. What's something else you can do to detriangulate yourself from the situation?
I don't know if this is appropriate, but if you're trying to diplomatically remove yourself so as not to offend one or the other, I can see one of the reactions is, what are you trying to do? Placate me? Or you're trying to, you're going to get, and the text came to my mind is, I would that you were either cold or hot. And because
Make a
you,
choice.
as this person in this triangle that needs to make a decision, you haven't made a decision, I'm going to spew you out.
Yeah.
And that's our choice between self and God. We have to make that decision. Either we're all in or we're out.
Mm-hmm. It might be a little bit different when it comes to issues of salvation, right?
Is it different?
I think so, because there are times when we've been in this, unless you're not like me, there are times I want to be connected to God. Other times I'm like, but I also kind of like this thing that's over here. Like, oh, what do I do? And you have to make this decision.
You have to choose.
What? You have to choose, right. And in a relationships with people, they may be demanding that you choose a side. You pick me, it's me or them, right? It's me or the highway. They have this ultimatum. And that's really difficult when you don't want to make that choice, right? And so the best thing you could do is live in accordance with your values. And you might have to say something like, wow, I don't like being put in this position, especially when I know that it's something that you two are struggling with. It's not mine. This is difficult for me to position to be in because I love both of you, and I don't want to abandon either one of you. So this is hard for me, and I know it's hard for you. So you could just name what's happening. You're not going to say, well, if we're going to say it that way, toodaloo. You don't have to abandon someone, even if they're saying this ultimatum, because that can be scary though, right? If you don't do this now, I will never see you again. What we don't know is, are they really making that decision like according to their values, or is this an emotional reaction? There's a whole bunch of other things that play into this. But if you can draw out the triangle, then you can make decisions that are more informed by what's actually happening. Good. How could this ability to detriangulate yourself from triangles change your family or your church family? You raise your hand. You have the
Let me get
microphone?
somebody to get the mic for me. Hold on. Though we were talking in the group, but you know, a lot of hurt stuff comes from that because you can easily fall, like you said, into the gossiping, into the hurting, into the instead of putting together, breaking apart. Our group was talking about earlier too is let's be real, like what you just said. You know, Brother Max says something important, but we're humans. We have that. Let's be transparent. Let's be real. You know, like the pastor said, it's like not everything's dandy in the church. You know, things do happen, but when you're real and you're transparent, that changes it too. Because being out of that group, because I can pick a side and it's easy and you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I myself, because like you just said and all of us know, I can't make nobody better but myself.
Mm-hmm.
By me removing myself from that situation or that environment, how can it help the family and church? And a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And again, where you said values, it's like what we were just saying, you know, what does God want me to do?
But it's going to be hard to live in accordance with your values if in this triangle you feel these swells of emotions about what I'm supposed to do. You get more upset, you catch that anxiety. I need to respond and react right now. If you're not able to resist that temptation to jump on a ship and just think about clearly what you want to do, take a breath, make some intentional decisions, think about what your typical pattern is, and then think, okay, this is what I normally do, and this is the outcome that I normally get. If I want a different outcome, I might need to think about leaning against and away from my typical reactions and instead living in accordance with my values. And what does that mean for this triangle here? Let's be intentional about where I step instead of just blindly running into the weeds and hoping for the best outcome. Yes?
In this whole process, if you're a person that's used to trying to make everybody else to make your decision, which that's a decision by trying to make them make it, you might not know what your values are because maybe you've accepted their values. So you have to figure out, okay, what are my values? Which is a huge job.
Then that doesn't happen overnight. No, agreed. If you've been pulled into other relationships and part of what is important to you is other people, and so you are living in accordance with what other people want you to do, this might be more of a challenge. Okay, now I need to make a decision for myself without checking to make sure it's okay with other people. Yes?
When you're in a setting like family, right? Blood family. You got the church family as well. We, as a follower of Christ, we know his desires for unity.
Uh-huh.
And our desire, when we put on Christ and we have the Holy Spirit, is to help through that process. So when you see strife going on between two people and you're in it, you brought up this thing about being a dampener, right? If I understand this correctly, it's we should avoid feeding into the strife.
Yep.
Instead, we become the reconciler, right? Do
Close.
we?
If you could take on the role of reconciler, you
Uh.
jump into their problem, and then you start taking on some of the anxiety of that relationship. So,
Right.
So maybe.
So, okay, so right now we're just talking about detriangulating. Okay. I'll wait till we,
Yeah. So I love what you're saying. We don't feed into their anxiety when they bring it. We don't amplify it or feed into it. But instead, we can remain calm. And in remaining calm, you're helping to provide some resolution. In that, the first step is don't pass that hot potato to me because it's not mine. So what do you think is going to happen? And already you're making a much better step towards reconciliation because you are helping them facilitate their own reconciliation, right? And oh boy, here comes brother so-and-so, here comes brother or sister. Oh boy, here's what's going to happen. I know they're going to talk to them at church. Oh, they're coming my direction. I need to be calm because they might start to complain about the same thing they've been complaining about for the last 3 years. And I'm going to listen. Okay. So what do you think needs to happen? And in doing so, you're already moving them towards or encouraging them towards providing some more reconciliation. Wow, this seems like this issue's been going on for a long time. What do you two think you're going to do about it? Because it's not your problem. It's theirs.
I'm just thinking of the call to be long-suffering.
Yes. Yes. It can be in a difficult position to be that person who wants to maintain a relationship with both. We have to be okay with the outcome of the other person making a choice about what they're going to do. But what if we don't like what they're about to do? Okay, good. If it's an issue of safety or well-being, it might be a little bit different. But let's say it has nothing to do with safety and well-being. Thank you for that. And it's just a decision that you would not make, you would not recommend to them. What do? You have to decide to live in accordance with your values. If you think it's important, then you can step in. But if you think it's important for them to learn from their own mistakes and they find out that their left shoe is on their right foot later, there might be an important learning process that needs to take place. But you can't control them, right? You're not responsible for their happiness, for their outcome. And this is where it gets pretty uncomfortable because we want the best for people, right? But we are not in charge of getting the best for everybody. And if you take on that responsibility, then you have a heavy burden, especially when you make a suggestion for something and they follow it, and the outcome is different from what you anticipated, and now they're pointing at you because this was your solution, and look at the mess that you made in my life. Whew. That's heavy, right? But if the conversation is more like, what do you think you need to do about it? That's different, because then they take ownership over their own decisions. Looking at the time, I want to be respectful of people's time who might be traveling, so I want to close out here. This is the final meme I want to show you. So I finally found it after 15 years, the scroll of truth. You're catching their anxiety if you're solving their problem. Yeah, I don't like that. It's uncomfortable. But if you find yourself solving their problem, it's because you're also catching their anxiety. Okay, we're going to pray, but if those of you who are online or in person, if you have a smartphone and you want to give me feedback on this whole seminar, I would love it. So it might take 5 to 7 minutes. You're just answering some questions about what was important to you, what you liked, what you didn't like, was it clear, those sort of things, because I always want to try and improve this seminar at every church I go to. So every time I'm done, I look at the surveys to try and make some changes if possible. But let's end with prayer, and I'll stick around for a few more minutes for questions if people want them, and I can leave the stage and come close if you didn't really want to ask your question out loud in public. So let's pray. Father God, we know you are a good God, all-knowing, wise, compassionate, long-suffering. And we are not those things. We struggle in those areas. I pray that you help us know how to move in our relationships in ways that more emulate you and your values. Give us the patience and the insight so we can change the way we take on other people's anxiety. We recognize which problems we should be focusing on and not get distracted by other people's problems. And I thank you for this opportunity to learn about triangles and our relationship with you today. Amen.